Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is David Nixon, former NFL and BYU linebacker and a scratch golfer in training. David, last day of the year probably that you can get out and play golf, man. Tell me you're on a golf course right now.
I wish. Thanks for the scratch golfer in training comment, too. I appreciate that.
Hey, our Twitter question is this. We were just talking about it. 5 weeks out from the Poinsettia Bowl from today, which Mountain West Conference opponent do you want BYU to play, David?
100% San Diego State. There's no doubt. I heard you guys mention Wyoming. Wyoming, really? Wyoming? People want to play Wyoming? That's like literally the last team I'd want to play. Mostly because they travel all 12 of their fans down to San Diego, and the entire stadium will be empty. And then I don't care if Wyoming's number one in the country. I would still not want to play them. Literally like the worst matchup ever.
If they sell certain
Wyoming. I'm telling you, when we went and played up at Wyoming and Laramie, they couldn't even sell out their own stadium. There's still like thousands and thousands of seats empty. And I don't know. I'm definitely San Diego State. They'd be able to at least bring a crowd, hopefully with a home crowd. But then you got Pumphrey that's been having a good season. I think there's some intriguing storylines there and matchups. But then you go back to the last time BYU was in the Poinsettia Bowl. They played San Diego State, correct?
That's right.
So I think I think that's a more intriguing matchup and a sexier matchup, if you will.
In your experience, how much did the bowl game opponent matter to you versus the actual bowl game with its location, the gifts available, the swag, if you will, and when that game was played?
Yeah, well, you got to remember all three of my bowl games were all Las Vegas Bowls, so we knew we were playing at Pac-12, which is pretty cool, right? I mean, it was awesome to be playing a P5 type school. But of course, location, Vegas is always fun because there's so much to do there. I definitely didn't complain. Some people complain about going back to Vegas year after year. I loved it. I mean, you go down there, you get to go to one of the shows down there, and then there's a lot to do at nighttime. Whenever you do have off, you can go out on the Strand and hang out. Same with San Diego. They're going to be able to walk around, the downtown down there and great weather, go to the beach, whatever it may be. But yeah, at least they're not head to Albuquerque like they did that one year with the Mexico Bowl or over to El Paso for the Sun Bowl. There could be worse places to go.
That was Brian Logan's second bowl game was in Mexico Bowl. I was down at that. At least there was the Tucanos there. Let's play the reaction game. I'm going to tell you a BYU opponent. I want you to give me one line of reaction, okay? Ready?
Go.
San Diego State.
Awesome.
It could be one
Love
word, too, yeah. Wyoming.
Okay. Absolutely miserable. Please do not have that happen.
There was a comma in there, so it's one sentence. Air Force.
Watch your legs.
Boise State.
Rematches, not fun.
Alabama.
We'd kill them.
We being the time.
Alabama, it'd be fun to play Alabama, but I don't think anybody in this world is going to be able to beat Alabama.
Not sure if they're going to make it in the Poinsettia Bowl. Just thought that one would be fun. Hey, BYU's a 30-point favorite versus the University of Massachusetts football squad team. What are some storylines that you're going to be watching during this game, David?
Well, I think coming off the SUU game, BYU, I think fans were expecting BYU to kind of blow them out of the water. And, BYU took care of business, but I think there's some unfinished business in the sense that BYU had 3 turnovers. So there's some stuff they need to clean up. UMass, I think BYU wins. Do they cover? I think the line's, 30 points? I don't know. That's going to be an interesting one. I think UMass has the talent. I mean, you look at their quarterback, Andrew Ford. He's a Virginia Tech transfer. Their big play tight end, Adam Brenneman. He's a Penn State transfer. So they've got talent. They've got guys that have obviously had good looks and are talented. They just haven't put the wins on the table this year. You look at their schedule and who they played. I mean, they played some teams tight. Mississippi State, they played them tight. Tulane, Florida, lost 24-7 to Florida. So I don't think they're as bad as people think they are, and I expect them. I mean, they really have. Kalani mentioned it yesterday. They have nothing to lose. They're going to come in here and lay it all out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they keep it somewhat close. I think BYU still wins by 2-3 touchdowns, but I don't think it's a blowout like everyone's anticipating, a 45-7 or 45-0. I think UMass comes in and they compete. And like I said, they've got the athletes that they can put on the field. They've got better athletes than SUU, no question about that. And so, if they put something together, it could be an interesting game.
I want to ask you about some of the personnel particulars in terms of who you want to see on the field on Saturday. But I just can't get over the fact that you said rematches are not so fun for BYU. In reference to Boise State, because you played UCLA in 2007 twice, right? And you beat them in the Las Vegas Bowl. Are you telling me that you didn't want that game, but then after it happened that wasn't even sweeter because you had lost to them earlier in the season?
It was sweet. Don't get me wrong. It was great to beat them, but the teams changed throughout the season, right? And, I mean, yeah, granted, we played UCLA that year early in the year, and there were injuries on both sides. Ben Olsen has started that game that year, and then, of course,
Olsen.
Kevin Kraft, or I think it was Kraft that finished this season in the bowl game. So they're two different teams, and I don't know. Boise State, we're going to play them again next year, and so it's almost like the year with UCLA where we played them 3 times in almost a 1-year span, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel kind of the same way about Boise State. We'll play them next year. I know the senior group would love to play them again potentially and go out to win, but as a fan, it's fun to play different programs, and I think San Diego State, like I said, with it being in San Diego, now if this bowl game was, say, in the Bay Area, that might change things. Maybe it would be at Boise State, but with it being in San Diego and you have the home team there and then the crowd and everything, that's a tough thing about bowl games. I mean, yeah, the Las Vegas Bowl, we fill that up every year with whoever we're playing. But this would be in the Qualcomm Stadium. I mean, that's a big stadium to fill. And if you do play a Boise State or a Wyoming that traditionally don't travel super well, then it's going to be a big old empty stadium.
Let's stick with Boise State. Let's say BYU did rematch with Boise State. I'm not convinced that just because Jamal Williams plays that BYU would win that game per se. I think BYU had to have 5 takeaways and 2 defensive touchdowns just to hang in that game. What are your thoughts if BYU match up with Boise State again?
On green grass.
Yeah, exactly, on a neutral field. I think BYU would have to go in and play another flawless game and to win. And they didn't play a flawless game against Boise to win last time, and the fact that the offense just couldn't put up points. And they couldn't turn those turnovers into points. I mean, obviously, BYU had 5 turnovers. 2 of those were 2 pick sixes. But off the other 3 turnovers, they only had 3 points. And so they didn't play well. And so I think in order to beat them, they'd have to be able to turn any type of turnovers into points. And I don't think I'd see a Boise State team turn over 5 more times. I don't think you can definitely.
That was
I don't think
wild.
you can bank on that. Yeah, it's not very typical of a Boise State team. So it would be a tough matchup, no doubt. I mean, look at Boise State's ranked 20th? Is that what they came out with yesterday?
Yeah.
And so obviously they've got the recognition from the national media, and they'd be a good opponent. I just don't love rematches. It's kind of fun as a player to play different programs and kind of prepare for a different program and different players instead of going back and preparing for the same guys you played 5-6 games ago. ESPN
just produced this morning some more bowl projections. Schleybaugh says San Diego State, McMurphy says Air Force. That's the latest.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer San Diego State over Air Force.
My knees hurt, and I won't even play in that game.
Although Air Force it is always a great game in the sense that it's usually pretty competitive, and there's a lot of respect between the two programs. But San Diego State, I think, as a fan and as a viewer, it's a much more exciting game to watch than the triple option all day long.
David Nixon with us on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline, former BYU and NFL linebacker. Let's get to the personnel questions, specifically Tanner Mangum, and how much do you want to see Tanner Mangum play against UMass on Saturday?
Ideally, it'd be the same type of setup we saw against SUU, where Taysom goes in, Taysom gets his numbers, gets a healthy lead, and then Tanner can come in and run the offense. Will that happen against UMass? I don't know. Like I said, I'm erring more on the side that this might be a closer game than everyone's predicting. But
30 points, man.
Hey, that's what people are predicting. I just don't know if BYU can cover that. BYU hasn't been able to put up big numbers this year. And this offense isn't meant to score big numbers and score quickly, right? This is a very methodical type of offense that takes its time and chews up time on the clock in the meantime. So, to score 30 more points in UMass, and I think they're going to have some big plays. I think they'll be able to get to Brenham and their stars and Marquise Young, the running back. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I would love to see Tanner get in. I think any rep at this point in the season, especially with this, I think BYU wins this, and so any type of win where we can get him in and get him some reps are obviously very valuable. So if it's the fourth quarter or maybe get him in another series like we saw with the second quarter, that was a planned deal where they brought him in at the beginning of the second quarter of the first series and took him back out just to get his feet wet, and then he obviously came in relief at the end of the game. So hopefully that's kind of the same plan they're going to go with this game. I think the game will obviously dictate and see how close it is and if BYU can jump out to an early lead.
Colby Pearson joked that all the receivers were going to put their names in a hat, and one of them would pull out a name, and they would just target that guy because they haven't had a 100-yard receiver this year. Is that something to watch for you? BYU trying to get a 100-yard receiver for the first time in Game 11?
Yeah, obviously, that'd be a great thing, but beyond the 100-yard receiver, I thought it was great. 12 different receivers caught a pass against SUU, and I like that distribution better. I think that shows that both Taysom and Tanner are both going through their progressions. Maybe that 100-yard receiver they're looking for was covered or double covered, and so they were able to go through and find the check down or go back to their second read. So I think that's a positive sign for fans in the sense that quarterbacks are doing their job. And we broke down the film for AFR. We saw that both quarterbacks were doing a great job of looking at their number one, number two, and then checking down to either KJ Hall or Braden O'Backery. And so, I think that was a positive sign. It's pretty wild. No 100-yard receiver for the whole season. That's obviously not a great sign.
David, always entertaining, especially when we talk about Wyoming as a potential bowl game opponent for BYU.
Yeah. If you can't tell, I am a little anti-Wyoming this year, but we'll keep it at that.
All right, Dave. Thanks for the time, man.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.